Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much. But I got one question for you. Did you also watch that disastrous speech at the UN that President Trump gave? I don't even know if we should call it speeches anymore. The crazy thing about this is when I heard that President Donald J. Trump was speaking on the second day of the UN summit, the first thing I was like, uh-oh, we're in a whole lot of trouble. Listen, you give our president a podium and mic, he'll run with it, okay? I don't know who asked him, who asked the president to be the opening speech, to be the opening speaker at the UN, especially in times when they're talking about the Palestinian statehood. I have no idea who requested that. Whoever did, girl, we need to talk. Because I could have told you that. Every American could have told you. Probably don't have Trump be the opening speaker. Maybe have him be in the middle somewhere, in the middle somewhere, because we know he's going to pop off about something. And he did. And guess what he popped off about? Teleprompters. And I knew 1 second in when he started popping off about the teleprompters not working, I was like, we're in a lot of trouble because he's about to go off script, and he's never on script anyways. So him on script is already bad. Him off script, I don't even know. I don't even know. I had to turn it off. I'll be honest. I had to turn it off. And I was looking forward to seeing what Trump was going to say because I was actually hoping this one time I was wrong. I was hoping this one time I was wrong and Trump was absolutely going to hit it out the park, and he didn't. He didn't disappoint again, did he? And so when he started complaining about teleprompters, I was like, oh, this is actually going to be an issue because this came off the back of the escalator breaking as soon as he steps on it. Now, actually, let's back up. If I'm honest with you, when I saw Trump enter the building and he went for that escalator and it stopped, I watched Melania that whole time. And let me tell you something. Listen, I'm not one to spread rumors. But when the president himself spreads false lies, which we'll get into later, I feel like I can at least express my observations. And my observation was Melania stepped on, it was moving a little bit, Trump put his foot on it, stopped. That's it. And I looked at Melania, Trump and Melania turned to whoever, Secret Service, and they were like, what's going on? What's happening with the escalator? Trump, obviously off the bat, you could just see in his face. Go watch that video. And he was about to start a riot. You could see in his face. He was about to turn around. He had his little finger up. He was ready to start a riot. Melania, though, she had this look on her face. I have this alleged sneaky suspicion that Melania hates him, hates that man. And she was probably like, you know what? I can't make fun of him anymore because I've slapped his hand too many times in public. I'm just going to walk up the stairs because I know my husband didn't really pass the fitness test, even though they're saying he did. I just know he didn't. I just have a sneaky suspicion. That's just alleged. That's just truly solely my opinion. And I just know she was looking because she had that look in her eye like, I'm about to mess with him real quick. You know when you have a spouse or you have a partner and they're just getting on your last nerve and you're just thinking, I'm just going to be petty for a second and I'm just going to piss him off. She was like, I'm just going to walk up the stairs because, Trump doesn't like walking at an incline. He's not very good at walking at an incline, and especially because of his ankles. I don't know if you guys heard. Swollen ankles, oh, it's not great, especially as you get older. Do you guys remember, I believe it was a NATO summit during Trump's term where all the world leaders met, who's a part of NATO. They met in Belgium or somewhere in Europe. And at the summit, there's this tradition where all world leaders walk down this path together. It's not really a long walk at all. It's not. Our president was the only one not to join in that walk. I would say it's about literally 2 minutes. Not even that. It's like down the block. He took a golf cart. So I've been worried about his ankles, I think, since the first term. But now it's more evident. I just know that she was like, let's get his fitness up. I know she is a concerned wife. As a partner and a spouse, you are concerned about your person's health. Listen, Melania's innocent. All she wanted him to do was just walk up the escalator. That's it. just to show the American public that he can do it. And they did. And, I thought, oh my gosh, our president made it up the escalator. That's amazing. And so he went off. Sometimes I can't even take myself seriously, but I really feel this way. I know you guys are thinking I'm joking, but I honestly really, as a free thinker, feel this way. And, and so I thought that was the end of the escalator debacle. I was wrong. I need to stop giving him so much credit that he leaves subjects alone, because he doesn't. So then he enters the grand hall at the UN like the president he is, you know what I mean? All the attention was on our president, and he was loving it. Oh, he loved it. And Melania sat down, and there was no one in her section. I don't know if anybody caught that, but when Trump went up to start his speech or whatever, start introductions, the camera panned to Melania, and she was just sitting by herself. And I was thinking, does no one want to sit by her? But then I was like, no, Melania is the type of girl. She likes her personal space. She's so over it. She doesn't like it. And I'm not giving her any grace or period, because I think she's complicit to all of this. And if you guys remember a few of my Epstein videos, there's a little alleged suspicion on how they met. But that's here nor there, because we don't actually know, because we don't have the files. We don't have those files. We're still waiting. So then we enter the UN hall, and it is stunning. Oh my gosh. And Trump, I'm just going to skip a little head forward, but Trump did comment on the decor. He loves marble, as you know, because he's decorating the whole White House or whatever it was, like a ballroom for $200 million, and there's gold everywhere. And then he bragged about how he's a great businessman and how his hotels or whatever are made out of marble, just like the UN, because he copied it from there. I mean, our president, he just loves a good home decor. And I just know when he's done being president after his second term, he's going to go into DIY. I just know it. I just know we see Trump hotels, Trump everything. We're going to see Trump DIY home decor, because he loves it. He loves it. And his base, typically the people that vote for him couldn't really afford his level of standard. So it'd be interesting to see who buys it. Anywho, going back to the story, because he just gets me so off track, and I do apologize, because this is a rant. This is a rant. I'm going to tell you right now, there's not an educational piece in this at all. Nope. And so I watch him. He gets up there. A second in, he's pissed. I could just see by his face, it fell. I don't know if he uses Botox anymore, but it's a little droopy. So I'm all for Botox too. I haven't used it personally, but I might be using it soon, because the rate of this administration, I'm starting to get real wrinkles. So I might actually be calling one of my homegirls to figure out who does hers, because it looks great. Trump's, I will not be calling, but that's okay. So I just knew he was pissed. And then he starts popping off about the teleprompters not working. And I knew. So as I said earlier, I was already nervous he was going to speak. The nerves kind of went out the window, because I knew by the look of my president's face, because I know him very well, he was not going to let this go. And he didn't. Somebody's getting fired. He goes, good thing I know my speech off the top of my head, and it's a good thing I'm a good speaker, because I don't need a teleprompter, but the teleprompter's not working. And he went 5 minutes popping off about that teleprompter. He was very bothered that it wasn't working. No matter what he says, he needs that teleprompter, because he can't really say big words. And we'll talk about that later with the Tylenol. He really couldn't pronounce stuff. And I get it. I'm not good with big words either. As you can see, I trip up all the time. I mean, with my editing, I chime in and say, actually, correction, the pronunciation is this. I have horrible pronunciation. But I'm not the president of the United States of America. I'm an ordinary citizen that's trying hard to educate myself. And you want to know a fun fact, Trump? Which actually, this is a great tip for the Trump administration and for anybody out there. If you don't know how to pronounce something, one trick I do is type in Google whatever the word is and then pronunciation after. And one thing that Google does that is absolutely amazing, if you're listening, you can hear how it's pronounced, and you're able to pronounce it accurately. That's just a fun top tip that I do. Anywho, and then he just starts spewing lies. He goes on about tariffs. He goes on about the economy. He goes on about the job market. He goes on and saying lies, by the way, saying that the job market is the best it's ever been. The economy's thriving, blah, 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 all this BS. And to be fair, it is for him, because I don't know if you saw the reports. Here is an educational piece. Trump's family has gained almost $10 billion during his administration. Why? Because of his meme coin. And of course, many other things, but the crypto is where it's at for him. The way this administration has gaslit the MAGAs and the ultra-right people into supporting them all the time has to be studied. I hope it's studied one day. But then again, we probably won't know because universities are getting defunded. And museums are also. So that's great. So before I get into the Tylenol craziness, I just want to say, from the escalator to the teleprompter, it has now become national news. Can you believe it? And the whole point of that UN summit went out the window. Trump having a toddler tantrum, which I know what a toddler tantrum is because I have a 1.5-year-old, thinks that it is the radical left coming after him. Literally, he thinks that people are coming after him because the escalator stopped working. Just to keep in mind, he said publicly in front of world leaders. And the reason why I say this, because the one thing that he kept harping on during his speech in front of world leaders, to who all laughed at him, by the way, he was the laughingstock. He goes, there are 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. To Trump's credit, which you won't hear me say a lot, he was speaking very lighthearted about it. But if you know Trump, he's very much a charmer, and kind of Kamala Harris mentioned that in her book, and I won't go into it, but how she was kind of charmed by him, because that's typically how dictators work, right? In order to get a following, you have to be charming, you have to be relatable, and to his audience, he's very charming. Well, our favorite White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, who we don't really talk about a lot because, I don't know, I don't really care for her. She wasn't taking it very lighthearted. So Leavitt goes, if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the president and first lady were stepping on, they need to be fired and investigated immediately. Fired and investigated for stopping an escalator? This is getting ridiculous, you guys. This is getting really, really, really ridiculous that I just have to laugh. You know what's funny? They were probably so mad that they couldn't have that escalator moment that they had when Trump was running for president. Do you remember when they come down the escalator and he's all waving and stuff because he doesn't walk down the stairs? You know, he has a thing about stairs. Or maybe he has a thing about walking. I don't know. I can't really figure it out yet. No, because to be fair, he walks. He walks from the White House to the helicopter, you know, in the White House lawn. It's quite a big deal. It's not, listen, I'm not even joking. I've heard the grounds of the White House is huge. I've personally never been. Maybe we'll visit one day, but not right now. Not today. Not while there's National Guard there. The fact that this is an issue out of all the subjects that they were discussing at this summit, with the main one being Israel's war on Palestine, makes no sense to me why this is like a big deal. But anyways, the United Nations had to come out with a statement about this. The United Nations, they are so busy and they have to come out with a statement because our press secretary and our president were not happy that the escalator broke when he stepped on it. What do you want us to do? The president also said he's 6'3", but when I see him standing next to 6'3" people, he's giving 5'10". I don't know what to say. I don't know what you want me to say. So anyways, I'm going to tell you what the UN spokesperson said. The UN spokesperson, Stephanie Durek, I apologize for messing up the last name, said a readout of the escalator's central processing unit indicated that it had stopped after a built-in safety mechanism on the comb step was triggered at the top of the escalator. Big words there. What our girl is basically saying, someone at the top pressed a button and it stopped the escalator. That's what she's saying. which has happened many times. It is easy to do, especially if you have a big crowd and especially if you have the president or like a world leader there, you're trying to clear the escalator so he can have his photo up for Truth Social. You're trying to get to the top if you're someone on his team to like give him a moment. And so maybe they step off the escalator and tap that little red button and boom, it stops. Which is a good thing for Trump. He should run with it because we were all worried that his health was declining. So that a win's a win, in my opinion, right? Isn't a win a win? This is a great win that it was accidentally triggered at the top of the escalator. And wait, hold on a second. The spokesperson continues. The spokesperson says that Trump's videographer had been traveling backwards up the escalator to capture his arrival with First Lady Melania Trump. Just like we suspected, right? The videographer may have triggered the safety function. The safety mechanisms is designed to prevent people or objects accidentally being caught or stuck in or pulled into the gearing. Makes total sense. So it's safety. So what we can all say confidently, which I know President Trump is so happy about, is that the UN headquarters where all of our world leaders are at is safe. We have safe escalators. It's great. Now, remember the teleprompter debacle? Well, the UN also had to come out about that. Why? Because it's all this administration can talk about. Not the real data of inflation, not the real data of unemployment, not the real data of who is the real supremacist here. No, we're worried about teleprompters. So the UN, who's busy as hell, came out and said, the UN teleprompters are working perfectly. And that the White House had operated its own teleprompter. So I guess the person that Trump was talking about firing was in his own cabinet. Yikes. Oh no, that's horrible. Why would they? Don't fire the aide for just doing their job. That's really mean. Speaking of mean and craziness, TMI, because by the way, males listen to this podcast. 11% of my audience on Spotify are male. 21% of my audience on YouTube are male. So shout out to y'all. Hello, males. We will be talking, what's like a male subject? Actually, all of my subjects are male subjects because you should be in tune with how women feel. Thank you. And so here's another subject for you. Menstrual cycles. I am currently on my menstrual cycle. I literally started yesterday, and I was so scared when I saw my president, Donald J. Trump, in front of a big podium to let me know that Tylenol causes autism. And you couldn't make this up because my cramps were kicking in. And you want to know something crazy? I flipped between Tylenol and Advil. And right next to me, Minnie's snoring. Minnie's having the time of her life. She's dreaming about the squirrels. I'm in pain. I'm aching. I'm like, ooh, let me get that. Let me get a pill, like I do every month. I saw the Tylenol, but I was scared because I was like, dang, my president just said that I could potentially get autism. And I was like, there's no way I could get autism from Tylenol. Is there? Because you have to keep in mind, that's the headline I saw. The shock value and the fear mongering is really real here in America. But I was just like, let me put the Tylenol down and let me quickly go on Google and research. Because when it comes to the Health Secretary RFK Jr. and the CDC here in America, we've got to do a double take. So what happened? Why are pregnant women in Tylenol on the chopping block? In 31 years, I have never heard that Tylenol causes autism. I will admit I'm an Advil user, but I do have Tylenol PM. Because for me, Tylenol PM when I'm on my menstrual cycle works so much better than Advil PM. And so I've been taking it for years. And I personally haven't been diagnosed with anything. But I was like, this is the Trump administration. So there has to be something else behind it. There's never anything. They don't just do things to inform us like this. They do things because someone messed with Trump's pockets. And so I started really thinking, who's the Tylenol CEO? The pharmaceutical company that owns Tylenol. who's Trump pissed at? It's a bit all over the place. So RFK, Donald Trump, and them get on the podium and let us all know that pregnant women should not take Tylenol. I want you all to hear Trump in his own words, a part of his speech on why Tylenol is bad for pregnant women.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the...
Okay, so the title and the headline meant pregnant. So you can't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, especially if you have a fever. But I thought the whole point of Tylenol is to bring down a fever, right? I think it's very important to point out a lot of health professionals, credible health professionals around the world have debunked this. In particular, the UK Health Secretary, Wes Sterling, said, "Don't pay any attention whatsoever to what Donald Trump says about medicine. In fact, don't even take my word for it. As a politician, listen to the British doctors and British scientists. I trust doctors over President Trump, frankly, on this." I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him. And the problem is now the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, will now notify doctors, so my physician, your physician, that the use of Tylenol for people outside the US and probably North America, you may know Tylenol as paracetamol. So it's all the same thing. So he's going to alert doctors, so RFK and them are going to alert doctors that by taking Tylenol is associated with a very increased risk to autism. I think that we can all agree that Tylenol, Advil, paracetamol, whatever you want to call it, is not the source that causes autism. You know that, I know that, we all know that. I did read on the New York Times that doctors have come out and said taking Tylenol or some sort of that, like an Advil, after you give birth is sometimes needed because sometimes even before, during, and after birth, it can cause high fevers. Women's bodies go through so much. So yeah, sometimes it might trigger a high fever and you need a pain reliever and a fever reliever to bring that down. That is Tylenol, that is paracetamol, that is an Advil. So definitely discuss options with your doctor. If you feel like your doctor's playing you, seek a second opinion. You have the right, even if they're not playing you, seek a second opinion. But the point of me bringing this up is that misinformation from this administration is so real. Take every single advice, health advice, whatever advice that they are releasing, any guidelines, with a pinch of salt, and turn to a professional that you might know on the subject. Turn to your family that might be more well versed. Heck, even turn to a podcast that might be talking about it in more depth, and you can form your own opinion. Okay? Because we are in the era of having our own opinions. All right, y'all, I gotta go because this whole teleprompter stuff has just distracted me. You see, it worked. It distracted me, but I'm not gonna be distracted for long because I know as soon as I post this, something else is about to pop off. And we're covering it over here. Not playing anymore. Okay, thanks for listening. And give me a follow. Thanks. Bye.